Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's webinar, Increase Your Chances of Passing the CIA Exam. My name is Julie Reese, and I'll be your technical producer and host for today's session. Today, we're honored to have three presenters who will share with you their industry knowledge and expertise to assist you with your CIA certification journey. First to present will be Jonathan Jones, Manager of Global Certifications here at the IIA, followed by Vicki McIntyre, President of First Plus Resolutions, Inc., and also one of our CIA Learning System instructors. And last but not least, Kelly Quinn, Vice President of the IIA Strategic Partnership for the CIA Learning System. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. During this presentation, if you have any technical issues, please press F5 to relaunch your presentation. This should resolve most issues. You'll also want to ensure that your Flash player is enabled. You might even see an option to enable it in your media player on the console. If you continue to experience technical issues, you may also send a message via the Q&A feature on your console, and we'll work with you in the background. Additionally, you also may download the slides from today's presentation from the resource list at the bottom of your console. Time permits, we'll be taking some questions at the conclusion of the presentation. So please feel free to submit your questions at any time using the Q&A feature located on your console. Please be advised that this is a non-issuing CPE event. No certificates will be issued for attendance. Also, during today's broadcast, we'll be giving away a complimentary online CIA review course. You must be present to win, and we will draw the lucky person's name at the end of the presentation. Kelly will provide you with more details during the presentation. It's vital for you to understand the CIA program and requirements, as well as the most effective way to study in order to pass the CIA exam and earn your CIA certification. Our first speaker is Jonathan Jones, who's going to give you a brief overview of the CIA program, application process, and exam. Jonathan?
Thank you so much, Julie, and good afternoon, good morning to everyone, wherever you are, wherever you may be. Definitely honored to be here to speak with you, just to give some good information that we think will help all candidates as they start their certification journey. So what we're going to do today is to cover some of the basics of the CIA, as well as the entry requirements, and maybe just a couple of tips that'll help you along the way. And let's go ahead and get started here. So first and foremost, why the CIA? I know a lot of you have had interest in the certification, but I think for some people, maybe they didn't know anything about the IA. Maybe they didn't know anything about the CIA. Maybe it was just, a job requirement and something that they needed to do. But one thing that I learned, especially working here, is that it really is a global certification. And it really is humbling when you speak with people and companies and individuals from different countries around the world. They may not, speak the same language that you do, but they understand the CIA, they understand internal auditing. So it really is a very large fraternity, so to speak. We have over 165,000 certified globally CIA auditors. And as I was saying before, it is recognized as a global certification for internal auditors, and it is the only globally recognized certification for auditors. Any country, any company, any industry, they all know about the CIA. So it really is an important piece of ammunition in your arsenal if you are moving into the world of internal audit. The CIA journey begins with the focus on the IIA's internal standards for the professional practice of internal auditing. It's often referred to as the IPPF. In some cases, you'll hear it referred to also as the Red Book. So there's a lot of guidance that is covered under the IPPF. The journey really is based on, it's a focus of managing internal audit, and it culminates with concepts that are related to internal controls, risk, governance, and technology. The CIA is a three-part process and it establishes your foundational core as a starting point for growth in internal audit. And as you can see on the map, we just kind of wanted to give more of a visual representation. I'm a visual person. So here you can see, North America, South America, Asia, the Pacific. It really is widespread. And we have over 211 affiliates around the world. So, for some of you, as you travel, there's a good chance that there is an IAA in that local market, in that local area. So we really are everywhere, and it is, again, it's very much like a fraternity. So one of the main benefits of the CIA is the immediate credibility that you get. If you're in internal auditing and you have those three letters after your name, they know what goes into it. They know how difficult it is to achieve, and they know the amount of expertise that you have to possess in order to hold that designation. It definitely is a jump start for advancement opportunities. Even for seasoned auditors, there's information that is there that's going to broaden your knowledge base. And of course, with more knowledge, there's more confidence that comes with that automatically. And again, it does distinguish you from your peers and from others that may not have that CIA credential. So for me, I know that I am not working for free, and I'm assuming that most of you are not either. So it's very important to me to discuss the financial ramifications. So when we had a study and we spoke to many CAEs, many internal audit directors and leaders, and 84% believe that the CIA held value. 70% of the CIAs, or excuse me, of the CAEs that we spoke to said that they preferred to hire people who have the CIA designation. And when we're talking about just, flat tax dollars and cents, there was a $38,000 difference that we saw in potential earnings with individuals that held the CIA designation as opposed to those who did not. So those are really concrete numbers, and they're very high. Very high, and the reason for that is because for CAEs, once you get to that level, you don't really have a lot of time to micromanage. You have to put a strong team together, and you have to trust, as I'm sure many of you guys are already aware of. And part of that trust is knowing that the people who are working with you, they know exactly what they're doing, and you can trust them to manage their own tasks and get things done. And that really is what that CIA designation demonstrates for leaders in the internal audit field. So now that we understand, some of the benefits of the CIA and why you're here and why you want to earn this certification, let's talk about how. And it's really broken down into three simple steps. We have the application process, which is where you apply, the registration and the testing process, which is where you actually sit for the exams. And then finally, once you successfully pass the exams, which I know all of you are going to do, then you just have to maintain your certification. And that's really it. Now, the final step after you pass the exam portion is just to show your experience. And this is what we call a supporting requirement. And what we're going to do is get a little bit deeper into the nitty-gritty of exactly what is required. So when you're on the site, you're going through the candidate handbook, or even speaking with some of your colleagues who are also going through this, you guys kind of know what some of the terms and some of the jargon is that will be used in the CIA certification world. So here on this slide, you see the required entry supporting documents. So this basically means that when you submit an application, there are 3 documents that we ask you to provide in order for us to proceed to approve your application. Those are a government-issued ID. Examples of that would be like a passport, driver's license, In other parts of the world, it's a national identity card. The second piece of that would be educational diploma or transcript. The easiest form of educational evidence, I believe, is like an associate's degree or higher. However, there are alternative pathways if you do not possess that, and we'll get into that in just a couple moments. And then finally, it is what's called a character reference. And what this does is it is a statement that you're going to that you would send to a verifier, and what they do is they just attest to your character, what they know about you, which is of course you're able to take on this program, and that you're going to adhere to the IIA's Code of Ethics. And the Code of Ethics is available on the IIA website as well. The next step is the examination part. So there are 3 parts to the CIA exam. You can take it in any order. It doesn't have to be sequential. And there is a scaled scoring method. So the lowest on that scale would be 250. The highest on the scale would be 750. You only are required to achieve a 600 or higher to pass the exam. So if you achieve a 605, then there you go, you're good to go. In the event that you do not pass the exam, all that you would have to do is you would wait. There's a 60-day waiting period, which you cannot take the same exam, but you could take a different one. Or if you wanted to take the same exam, you just have to wait 60 days, and then after that, you're able to take the same exam again. On the next slide, we want to give you a bit of a breakdown as to what to expect on the exam. So there are 3 parts, as you know. However, the amount of content on the first part is a bit higher than the others. And you'll see part 1 has 125 questions, whereas parts 2 and 3 have 100. Roughly after, doing some analysis with over, several years, we determined that about 2 hours and 30 minutes is what's needed to successfully complete the part 1 exam, and then you will have 2 hours to complete parts 2 and 3. And in case you've never done, an exam with us before, there are tutorials that are available online where you can do kind of like a mock run through, see, an example of maybe like what a question would be, as well as the testing environment, so you know how to navigate that prior to your actual exam appointment. And then items such as, calculators are available. And then for those who are taking the exam in other languages, there's a nice little translation feature which will allow you to change from your selected exam language to English at any time. So just in case, there's maybe something you're like, I'm not sure what the context of that phrasing is, then you're able to switch back and forth if that is something that would assist you. On the next screen, we see the breakdown of the exam syllabi. And this is the amount of, the type and the amount of content that you can expect per exam part. So for instance, part 1 is going to be very heavy on the IPPF, or the professional standards and practices. And you can see that is reflected in the topics. So we have, like governance, risk management, control, quality assurance. All of these are covered in the IPPF. Part 2 is the internal audit activity, engagement, and monitoring processes. And then part 3 has recently been revised, and it includes business acumen, more importantly, the information security and information technology, which I think we know that is where the world is headed now. And it's very important to stay ahead of the game and to make sure that the product that we're providing is also in line with the technological advancements of the rest of the world. And if you have any questions or you want to take a look at the exam syllabi a bit closer in detail, the website is available on this slide. And I believe we will be sharing some important information later on after the presentation is finished. On the following slide, we discuss finally the exit requirement. So the first three documents, which were the character reference, the photo ID, and the proof of education, those are all entry requirements. So those are what we need before we can approve you into the program. After you complete the exam portion, then you have the exit requirement to actually be awarded the CIA certification. So the reason why the education comes into play is because the amount of experience that you need depends on what type of education documents that you provide us. So for instance, if you give us an associate's degree, then that will require 60 months of experience for you to evidence before we are able to provide you with the CIA certification. And the experience that we're looking for are tasks that are related to internal audit. Of course, performing audits would be the most obvious example. Process control, risk management, quality assurance, external as well as internal audits. There's examples of the experience requirements. Those are also available on the website and in our candidate handbook, which I recommend that you all download. It's free of charge on our IIA Global website. The bachelor degree, you only are required to showcase 24 months of experience. And the master's degree, you're only required to evidence 12 months of experience. A common question that we get is if you upload one, like for instance, you already have your bachelor, but you're in a master's program, can you then upload your master's once it's achieved in order to lower that experience requirement? The answer is yes. All you would do is notify us via your CCMS profile, your candidate management profile. Let us know that you would like to evidence your master's degree. We're able to make the adjustment, and almost instantly the requirement for experience is going to be reduced. So it's very easy if that situation applies to some of you right now. And for Julie, I believe that we have a poll question.
Yes, we do. Thank you very much. That question is on the screen for our attendees to respond to. And if you're not seeing the question, please just hit the F5 key on your keyboard to refresh your console. Or if you're on a Mac, I believe it's Command R or the refresh key. That question reads, when are you planning to take a CIA exam part? Your choices are within the next 6 months, within the next 12 months, or maybe you haven't decided yet. Go ahead and select the option that best suits your answer and click the Submit button so your answer is recorded. We'll give everybody about 15-20 seconds to make a selection. Again, just hit that radio button that suits your answer and click Submit. And if you're not seeing the question, just hit F5. That should refresh your console. And looks like we're starting to get some results in. We'll give everybody about 5-10 more seconds just for good measure. Okay, I am going to give the audience notice that I'm closing the poll at this time. I'm going to push out the results for everyone to see. And it looks like we have a large majority is within the next 6 months. Jonathan, do you have any comments on that?
I love it. I love to see it. Wow. So it looks like a lot of you are ready to kind of jump in there and get going, which is fantastic. There is also no waiting period. So I've seen examples of an individual who decided, hey, I want to book these all on one day. I would not recommend that, but if you've got the confidence to go ahead and try it, then by all means go for it. We love to hear, really aggressive attempts to complete the certification program. And then for the 14%, basically 15%, it says you guys have not decided yet. Interesting. Well, if there is anything, any information maybe that you need, please reach out to us. Or maybe if there's some questions or something that we can do to help nudge you along, then let us know. We're always here to help. And again, my team is the certification management team. So if you're going to get certified, then you're going to be working with us. So I mentioned a little bit earlier about the exam languages. There are several that we have. And we've been in the process of, there's always updates. There's always cleanups to, try to make sure that we have the best product possible and the best translations available. So what you're looking at are the updates that have been completed so far. So these are all the languages in which the CIA parts 1, 2, and 3 have been translated for. You'll see right beneath that main list on the second bullet, it allows you to take the CIA exam in other languages based on the previous syllabi. So in 2018, we updated all of our exam content. It takes an enormous amount of time to get these translations into the system and functioning correctly. So this was a tiered approach. So all the languages in the first bullet have been completed. However, if you happen to want to take the exam in simplified Chinese or in Polish, you'll see that there are different launch dates for those exam languages. Simplified Chinese is really only a couple of weeks away for June 1st, and Polish will be at the beginning of next year. Our website, we keep up to date with these. So if there are any sort of rollouts, updates, or changes, especially for those last two languages, then it will reflect on the global website. And this is the updated CIA exam syllabi. If you happen to view the syllabi for the older language that has not been updated yet, you'll see that there are a lot more domains. This is much more concise. And again, as I pointed out earlier, it does point towards the IT element, which has been recently added to the Part 3 as a part of those 2018 adjustments. So on the next slide, just to dig a little bit deeper on that Part 3, so we reduced the domain topics from 8 to 4, which if anybody's taken a test, obviously the less that you are, required to be aware of as far as domains, then, the better it's going to be. I mean, especially when we're talking about information security and technology, those are almost one and the same. There are obviously some clear differences, but when we're talking about the domain and what is needed as it relates to internal auditing, we felt that that was a necessity for us to update and include with our new exam content. And Julie, we have another poll question that's ready for you.
Thank you again, Jonathan. And that question's up on the screen for our audience. Once again, please do hit the F5 key if you're not seeing the question. But please don't be concerned if you're having any trouble answering the question. This is a non-CP issuing event, so we're not issuing any CPE certificates, so it's not mandatory that you respond. We're just trying to gauge the audience. That question reads, have you already applied for the CIA certification program? Your choices are yes, no, or not sure. So go ahead and select the radio button that best suits your answer and click submit so your answer is recorded. And we'll give everyone about 10 to 15 seconds to respond. And Jonathan, we're getting a lot of questions about certification. So I know we're not going to have anywhere near enough time to respond to most of these, but I'll make sure I send these to you. So hopefully you'll be able to help some of these people. And then it looks like we've got most of the responses in, so I am giving notice that I'm closing the poll at this time, and we'll be pushing out the results. And it looks like we're almost at a dead even. A little bit more said yes than no, and just a few said not sure. Jonathan, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a pretty good split. So it's almost basically half have already applied, half are in the process of applying. If you have already applied, then you've probably got a jump start on some of this, and you're familiar with the handbook, and you guys are getting ready to take the exams, which is awesome because obviously the learning system will be able to help. And then if you have not yet applied for the CIA program, then there's some information that we definitely want to go over now. So unless you've been under a rock for the past 4 months, the world has changed dramatically. I am working from my house. My dog will not leave me alone. For more important things, the exam testing partner that we have, which is Pearson VUE, they have testing centers all over the world. And usually that is the way that we administer our certification exams. So you go to the testing center, you get checked in and signed in, and you go ahead and you take your exam. Now, with the changes, in just social distancing, with the way that the world is right now, we thought that we want to be ahead of the curve and we want to adjust. I don't know about you, but I don't know that I have interest in going to a testing center right now, whereas I could stay at my home, secure, comfortable, and I can still take the exam. That is what we wanted to do, and that is what we were able to accomplish for both the CIA Parts 1, 2, 3 and the CRMA exam as well. So there's really nothing that you have to do specifically. You notify, if you already have an exam authorization, you can reach out to us and we can convert your existing exam authorization to a online proctored exam. So you're eligible to take the exam from your home, even if you've already submitted a registration, or if you have not yet submitted an authorization, you're going to have the opportunity to do both. So if everything, clears up and the world goes back to normal in the next few months, you're able to go to a test center if you prefer that environment. Otherwise, if you want to test from home, then you have that ability as well. There are links, there's information all over the website. There's tests, there's system tests that you can do just to be sure that you meet the technological requirements. And then if there's questions you have, like, hey, what if I lose connection during an exam? What happens? We've pretty much gone through all of the major buckets of questions and tried to provide some robust answers to help you know what to expect before you even register for the exam. So to help kind of jumpstart and, get you guys going on the certification journey, we've also put together a pretty good deal, nice savings. So you are able to save 20% off of the CIA application, CRMA application, as well as the exam registrations. You do have to be an IIA member, and the offer expires May 31st. So when you are in your certification record and you're getting ready to check out, you will see an area where you can input a discount code. You would input that code on your profile, click apply. It immediately reflects those savings, and then you would proceed to the checkout screen where you're able to complete the transaction. And again, more information is available on the website if you guys have questions about the online proctoring or the 20% discount. And of course, as Julie said, if there are questions that you guys post today, then we'll be sure to respond to those, even though I'm hearing that there are quite a few, so we may not be able to get to them all today. So really the final part of the life cycle for the certification is maintaining the certification. CPEs is what it's commonly referred to. In some cases, you may see it as CPDs, but really CPE is the term that we use for the CIA. So the continuing professional education that you are required to obtain as a CIA is 40 hours if you're practicing, 20 hours if you are non-practicing. So if you're performing internal audit functions, then you will be considered practicing. If you are not performing internal audit functions, but you want to maintain the designation, then that's when you would qualify yourself as a non-practicing CIA. And we have a CPE policy which goes over the different activities that are acceptable and what you need to do to make sure that you're fulfilling the continuing education requirements each year. The following slide is a link to the certification handbook, which I've mentioned several times throughout this. This gives you a step-by-step walkthrough on how to sign up, how to register, supporting documents that are needed. It gives a synopsis pretty much of everything that I've covered today, except just in more detail, and it's available for you, whenever you need reference. And with that, my time is done. So I will turn it over to Julie, and she can introduce the next presenter. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Our next presenter is going to be Vicki McIntyre. Vicki, would you like to go ahead and take over?
Sure. Thanks, Julie and Jonathan. Really good foundational information there, Jonathan. Thanks for sharing that with everybody. So now let's turn our attention to preparing for your CIA examination. As Jonathan said, the CIA exam is based on the International Professional Practices Framework, the IPPF, and the Red Book. So that encompasses our standards, the code of ethics, the definition of internal audit, our 10 core principles, the mission statement. There's a lot of content there. Any good CIA preparation system should also model that IPPF. So very important, modeling the content in the IPPF. Okay, so why would you consider using the IIA's CIA learning system? Well, first of all, it teaches the entire syllabus, and the structure of the learning system follows the syllabus, topic by topic by topic. It is designed for learning, not necessarily memorization. So when you come away from your course of study using the IIA's CIA learning system, you're going to have a very practical, learning experience so that you can apply internal audit methodology to your day-to-day work, and you have a really good understanding of the standards and guidance. The learning system is adaptable to any learning style, any schedule, and certainly it meets the IIA's standard of excellence. So trust the experts. Choosing your learning option. So some people like to self-study. Some people like to invest in the learning materials, and then they study on their own schedule. They can move along at their own pace. They have all of the tools available to them through the reading materials in the learning system, as well as the online tools and resources with the quizzes and the tests and the flashcards, glossary, and all of that stuff. Some people like an instructor-led course. So currently, the IIA is offering an online CIA exam prep course for Part 1, and that begins on June 1st. So that's just a couple of weeks out, Monday, June 1st, and that course will go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 2 weeks, from June 1st to June 12th. And the classes are held from 6 o'clock until about 8:20 in the evening, and that's Eastern time. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday beginning on June 12th for Part 1. Then we jump to Part 3 beginning on June 15th. So June 15th through June 26th, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the IIA is hosting an online CIA exam prep course for Part 3. And then part 2 is being offered in August, beginning on August 17th. And you can go right to the IIA.org and look in the Learning Solutions tab, and you'll find that course opportunity. So instructor-led courses, these are top-level CIA, Certified Internal Auditors, subject matter experts in many of the exam topics that you'll see on your examinations. It provides you with a structured syllabus, and the content flows right along with the exam syllabus. The online virtual classroom is just like you would experience in a live classroom. So we have great learning platforms to present the CIA learning system and the materials that you need to master for your exam. Also opportunity for corporate. If you have a large audit shop or you want to partner with a couple of smaller audit shops, the IIA will provide customized virtual training for your auditors. And when we get a little bit further down the path here in terms of managing through the coronavirus challenges right now, we can provide live instructors to come to your location to teach the CIA learning system. So Julie, we have another survey question.
Thank you very much, Vicki. This is our last question. So that question reads, how do you like to study? Your choices are there on the screen. So go ahead and make your selection and click the submit button so your answer is recorded. And we'll give everyone about 20 seconds to respond. Give everybody about 5 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and switch to the results. And it looks like we have majority online self-study program as the choice. Vicki, did you want to comment on that?
Well, that's interesting. A lot of people like to study at their own pace. Some people do very well in that way, but what I've learned by being a CIA exam instructor for about 12 or 13 years is that not everybody can stay focused. So it's interesting that the results are 64% like their own self-study program, but that's fine. The online classroom, clearly that's the second option here. But the point is to have a disciplined, really structured approach to how you're doing your study. One of the worst things is to procrastinate, to start, oftentimes people start down this path of CIA certification and they're highly motivated, very excited, and then, life happens and things get in the way and they don't maintain that disciplined approach to study. So let me talk for a bit about the steps to success in CIA certification. So first of all, planning your studies. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance, the 6 Ps. Recognize that pursuing your CIA certification is an investment in yourself and your career path, and this is going to benefit you for the rest of your career. It requires time and dedication and effort. So don't take the commitment lightly. Make sure that you plan your studies, calendar your study time. Again, using that systematic, disciplined approach is going to help you be successful. Second step then is studying the reading materials, then application of the concepts, and then practicing for your actual exam experience. So creating your study plan, your CIA learning system has some tools for you so that you can actually figure out about how many hours you're going to need to dedicate to your study and what is the duration of time that you're going to budget for your studying. Are you going to, knock it out in 3 or 4 weeks for each part? Or, maybe you're going to have to stretch it out over 8 or 10 weeks. the point is you need to expect to invest about 40 hours, or a minimum of 40 hours for each of parts 1 and part 2, and a minimum of 50 hours for part 3. We often, hear this question, how much time do I need to budget to prepare for this exam? Well, it varies. It varies on how recently you finished your college education. How much, are you used to test taking? Are you used to studying a technical content and remembering it and being able to have a practical application of the topics and the information that you're studying? Your study time will also depend on your number of years of experience in either internal auditing or a CPA firm where you're auditing financial statements, or perhaps you've worked in a compliance role or a risk management role. So it depends on your years of experience in the areas of risk and internal control. Also depends on your education and your level of expertise in accounting and information technology. So Jonathan shared with you the exam syllabus and the topics in the Part 3 exam, which tends to be the toughest to pass. And that IT content in the Part 3 exam, between IT and IT security, that's 45%. So 45 out of your 100 questions are in the IT topics. And then the financial management piece is about 20% of that Part 3 exam. Your study method also is going to dictate how much time you have to invest in studying, and then how quickly you can read and really master the exam topics. For me, I studied for parts 1 and 2 together. Your part 1 exam is much about the attribute standards, and that is the 1,000 series of standards in the Red Book. It's things like independence and objectivity, due professional care, the requirement to have an internal audit charter that defines the purpose, authority, and responsibility of the audit function, talks about the quality assurance and improvement program, and then it gives you a really good overview of governance, risk, and control. So that's all part 1, attribute standards and governance, risk, and control. Part 2 then is internal audit methodology. It's the doing of the work. It's engagement level planning, the execution of the work, designing your test steps, doing the work, drawing conclusions about your test results, writing audit reports and communicating the results of the work, and then following up and monitoring for management's remediation of issues that we find. So part 2 is internal audit methodology. Also covers risk-based annual planning and the risk-based approach to planning the work that the audit activity is going to be performing over a coming period of time, typically 1 year. So part 1 and part 2 are very much germane to what we do day in and day out in an internal audit activity. Part 3, on the other hand, financial management, it's the IT and IT security, and it's business acumen, a lot of theory around management style, motivation theory, leadership theory. It talks about data analytics. There's some stuff in there on corporate social responsibility, which seems to be a pretty good topic in the part 3. And by that, I mean there's a number of exam questions on corporate social responsibility. So part 3 is a little different. It's not so heavily focused on the standards and guidance and the IPPF and the Red Book like parts 1 and 2 are. So just, you might consider hitting it really hard and studying for parts 1 and 2 together, and then tackling part 3 kind of separately. So everybody learns differently at a different pace. You just don't want to take the exam until you have mastered the syllabus and the topics that are covered in the CIA learning system. Okay, create your study plan. So first of all, this is a tool that is found in the IIA-CIA learning system, and you'll want to do your online pre-test to establish your baseline of your understanding of the various exam topics. This study plan, this Smart Study tool, will factor in the results of that pre-test to determine which of your topics need the most study time, and then it's going to give you a step-by-step study plan. By following this customized study plan, it's going to save you time, and it's going to help you focus your energy on the right topics where you need the most work. So step 2 is studying the reading materials then. So all of the reading materials, obviously, you can download them to your e-reader, whatever device you want. You can also get printed books for a small additional charge. It basically just covers the printing and shipping. And then the CIA Learning System has the Professional Practices Framework video tutorial as well. So if you like those hard copy paper books where you can highlight and make notes in the margins and that type of thing, that's also an option for you. Application of the concepts. So recognize that your exam questions are all multiple choice. You'll have 4 answer options for every one of your questions. Your job is to first eliminate, you can often eliminate 2 of those answers that you can easily and immediately identify as not being correct. And then you'll be left with 2 answer options. And it's not unusual that 2 answers are actually correct. Your job is to choose the best answer. This may require judgment. This may require your very keen understanding of which of those 2 remaining answer options aligns most closely to the standards or the code of ethics or internal audit planning methodology. So, just recognize that exam question analysis and learning how to master your reading of the questions and, practicing with the quizzes in the CIA learning system is going to help you tremendously to tick up your scores and increase your likelihood of being successful on your exam. Another critical thing here, when you're doing your quizzes online and applying the concepts that you've studied, read, and learned, is to think very broadly and think globally. Don't think within your silo of work experience or your industry that you are used to working in. You need to think very broadly, recognizing that the CIA certification is portable, it's transferable, it is acknowledged globally. So you have to approach this exam with a global mindset. As Americans, particularly, we tend to be a little bit insular and very US-centric, but this really requires you to think broadly and globally and outside of your industry and outside of your work experience. So the quizzes are a great resource for you in the learning system to be able to practice exam type questions. You can see on the slide that when you answer a question successfully, it'll show up in green. If you do not get the answer correct, it'll be marked in red. And also there's a direct reference back to the topic, chapter, section of the CIA learning system where you can find that content, so you can circle back and revisit the information in the learning materials that you need to master to get these types of questions correct in the next go round. Flashcards and glossary. The flashcards, I've had feedback over and over and over again from students, successful students, that the flashcards are very helpful in mastering terminology and definitions and the standards and the 10 core principles and the guidance. So the online flashcards and the glossary, these are available for you to download and print. And then if you're so inclined, you can add details from your reading materials to augment the flashcards. And we know from adult learning theory that the more touch points we have with a topic, the more learning is taking place. So by reading and studying the materials and then downloading these flashcards and actually printing them on hard copy, reviewing the flashcards, reading the terminology and definitions, and then recalling what you learned in your reading materials and adding some bullet points onto those flashcards. Again, that's just, repeated touch points with the materials that are going to assist in your learning and your recall of the information for your exam. The CIA practice exam, this is the fourth step in the approach to success on the CIA exam. So your practice exam is actually going to have a time clock ticking off in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, just like you will experience on your actual Pearson VUE CIA exam. So you'll have the time clock ticking down. You will have the option to flag questions so that you can circle back to those questions after you've finished your exam. So we recommend flagging those that you are uncertain of, but we do not recommend passing over a question and not answering it. Clearly, you need to practice your good time management strategies for these exams. You don't want to leave any question unanswered. Worst case, you have a 25% chance of getting the question right, even if you don't have a clue about which is the correct answer on any given question. So always answer the question, but flag it so that you can circle back later to revisit it. Oftentimes, as you're moving through your exam questions, you'll read something that will trigger something in your mind and help you to go back to a previous question and answer it successfully. So practice for your exam. Study Plus system. This gives you a guide to knowing if you're prepared to take your exam. There is a guide to CIA exam scoring. So Jonathan mentioned the scaled scoring approach on the exam. It's not a straight percentage. We say that you need 600 out of 750 to pass, but it's not simply 80%. So different questions are weighted differently according to the difficulty or the technicality of the question. The CIA question analysis grid, this gives you a methodical plan for addressing each exam question. So consistent application of an exam question analysis protocol is going to help you maximize the number of questions that you'll answer correctly. And then also the study tips from successful candidates. There are, some quips and tricks from successful exam takers, some pointers for you for exam day, for before the test, and so forth. So let's talk a bit about study tips and test taking tips. Now that you know about CIA certification and the benefits to obtaining it, a little bit more about the best way to study and your actual exam day experience. So use the right study method for your learning style. Understand if you're a better, auditory learner versus a kinesthetic learner. Be realistic about your timeline for taking your exam. You can't cram for these exams. You absolutely cannot cram. It requires a disciplined, approach to studying. Don't procrastinate. I always tell my students that is the number one reason that great internal auditors don't earn their CIA certification is procrastination. Internal auditors are bright, competent, capable people. And, all of you on this webinar today can be successful on earning this certification. But it requires a commitment, it requires studying, and don't procrastinate. You need to calendar your study time and show up for your study appointments that you've calendared. Use that discipline to be successful. Know your strengths and weaknesses. Focus on the areas and the topics where you are weak. Again, write your flashcards, put extra effort into studying proficiency areas. So in your CIA learning system, you will see that every topic is coded with a letter B, like Bravo, which stands for basic, or a letter P, like Paul, which stands for proficiency. Basic level questions are exactly that, pretty easy. Basic terminology, definitions, methodology. Proficiency level questions, on the other hand, require you to analyze information, synthesize it, draw a conclusion, exercise judgment, and so forth. Definitely know the IPPF. Write a table of contents for an internal audit manual using the standards as your guideline, your baseline. Think of real life examples that would be related to your internal audit manual table of contents. Test taking tips, read the last question, the question with the question mark. Before you read all the details, look for the qualifiers like except for, or not, or least likely, or all. Anticipate your answer before you read the answer options. Again, think broadly. Eliminate the obvious wrong answers. Budget your time, practice your time management skills, be well rested for your exam. Okay. Let me turn it back over to Kelly. I realize I've gone on too long. Kelly, why don't you tell us about how our participant can obtain the CIA learning system?
Great. Well, thank you so much, Vicki, for sharing those helpful study tips. And also thank you to Jonathan for all the helpful information about the CIA exam and the new online testing options. So as a participant on the call today, we would like to offer you a special discount throughout the month of May until May 31st. We're offering a 20% discount as part of our study and test from home promotion. So if you go to learnci.com and would like to purchase the learning system, you'll receive 20% off, and that applies to both full kits and individual parts. So you could enter the code SAVE2020WEB at the checkout, and it will take 20% off of your price. In addition, if you are an I member, you will receive an additional $100 off the full kit price or $40 off the single part price. So that's available for you. One other thing to note is that we do have volume discounts available. So if you have another colleague or friend that is also interested in purchasing the learning system and you want to buy them together, you can contact my colleague, Mike Downs. His email is mike.downs@thei.org, and he can provide an additional special discount for anywhere from 2 or more purchases together. So just wanted to make you aware of that, and the discounted prices are shown here. A couple of resources that will be helpful. The first is the certification link. That's at thei.org/CIA. That's where you'll find that handbook that Jonathan mentioned, and where you're able to apply and register for the CIA exam. And also you'll be able to find information there at this site about the new online testing options. The other site is learnci.com. That's information where you'll find the learning system. We have some free practice questions. And if you're interested in taking an instructor-led course, whether it's in an online option or in a live option, we have hundreds of courses offered around the world. So if you go to learnci.com and click on classes offered or courses offered, you'll be able to find a list of all of the online and live course providers by country. So you can check that out there if you're interested in taking a course, or if you just interested in purchasing the learning system, self-study materials, and studying on your own. All that information can be found at learnci.com. Okay, and now we are very excited to do a drawing for a free online seminar winner. So this person will be able to pick from these options, part 1, 2, or 3. This is valued at almost up to $1,400. So I'm going to have Julie do a random drawing and pick the winner, please.
Thanks, Kelly. I'm just pulling the name now. And it looks like our lucky winner is Mercedes Howard in California. So Mercedes, be on the lookout from an email for an email from me, and I'll give you the details on how to get signed up for a course. Kelly?
Great. Well, congratulations, Mercedes. We look forward to reaching out to you, and you'll hear from us soon. Okay, so I know we've just run out of time, but I just wanted to make mention that a recording of this webinar and a copy of all of the slides will be posted within a few days at this website, learnci.com/webinar archive. Also, we were answering a lot of the questions that were coming in through the Q&A feature, but if we did not get to your question, we will also post the answers to your questions at the same website. And if your question was specific, we will respond directly to you. So I've documented all those questions, and I apologize for not having time to get to your live questions today, but we will make sure to get back to you. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate that, and we wish you the best in your CI exam preparation.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you very much, Vicki and Jonathan, both for presenting today. We do appreciate that, as well as our audience members to take time out of their day. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you on the next broadcast.